It had only traveled at clearly a very short distance from the runway. And as you would expect, the international airport there in Ahmedabad in Gujarat has suspended all operations of the airport until further notice. Well, with me now is that transport correspondent, Nick Marsh. And Nick, as I was just reflecting with Arunadhay Mukherjee, when you look at what we know so far about this, clearly this flight was clear for takeoff. The crew, one assumes, were happy to take off, yet within a very short space of time, something tragic has happened. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was up in the air for less than a minute before that Mayday call went out, and then the plane came down. So, clearly this is going to take some time before aviation investigators start to piece together what happened exactly. We'll obviously bring you the details of that as and when they come in. What we do know is who was on board this flight. So Air India has confirmed there were 242 people on board, that's passengers and crew, of which they say 169 were Indian nationals, 53 were British, one Canadian, 7 Portuguese, and interestingly in this statement, Air India have said that the injured have been taken to hospitals. Now, you can read into that basically as a suggestion that not everyone on board was a fatality, that there were some people who were injured and taken to hospital and presumably are also being treated. Now, that's just an inference into what they're saying, but that's probably the most detailed information that we've had so far in terms of who was actually on this flight that was supposed to be landing at Gatwick Airport at around 6:30 here in London local time later on today. And Nick, what can you tell us about this aircraft, the 7878 Boeing Dreamliner? Well, the first thing to mention for people just sort of watching at home is that this 7878 is a different plane to the 737 MAX that you might have heard so much about in the headlines. That was the model that came down in those fatal crashes in Ethiopia, in Indonesia as well, where everyone on board died, and those planes were found to have some kind of software fault, which essentially brought the planes down in the end. So these are different planes we're talking about, but this is still the same company, Boeing, which has gone through a horrific couple of years with all kinds of problems, including fatal crashes. There was also the Alaska Airlines incident, where a door basically just blew off at mid-air in a flight in the United States. And we've already seen before trading has started in New York today, that shares went down nearly as much as 7%. I mean, clearly, that seems like a trite thing to say on the commercial side of things when there is so much potential loss of life after a crash like this. But it does underline how Boeing has really sort of lurched from disaster to disaster over the past few years. There have been a series of investigations into sort of working practices, safety practices there, and controversies into how they've handled it. And today's news will come as another big blow to the company, which, let's not forget, is one of the massive, American, aerospace companies. We've tried to get in touch with them. They haven't responded to our requests so far. As soon as they have anything to say, on this news, I'll of course bring that to you.